you're here. I'm glad you can make it. Thank you so much for coming on. And we've got people today.
Yeah, I was looking.
And excuse me, we're just so excited to talk about virtual, because I think that it's something that when we've talked with nonprofits, it's something they may be on the fence about, and people are a little bit nervous about it, and they were kind of hoping that this pandemic would kind of clear out, but that doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon.
No, it does not. It does not. So which organizations have you got, Brie? I can see the list of participants, and I know some of them, but not all of them.
So we've got a ton of people on here. We've got some folks from Canada that are with the Thunderbirds hockey team. We've got with the Pregnancy Aid Clinic. We have a consultant that works with nonprofits. We have Favor House is on today. Gulf Coast Kids House is on today.
Love them.
We've got some folks from Scotland, and Basil with Inertia is going to be on today, and several others. Pensacola Children's Business Fair. The list goes on. And so thank you for hopping on, because I know your time is very valuable. And I just have a few questions for you as we move into this. And, when COVID-19 became a bona fide pandemic in March, there seemed to be kind of this, black cloud that fell over live events. And especially moving into the fall, there was a lot of panic that happened. And I want to ask you, what was that like? When did SCI decide that, okay, we're going to have to make the transition in really realizing that virtual events would be a viable option for you?
Yeah. Well, the number one thing is that we knew that we were not going to cancel Entregon. We were going to do it one way or another. And we had always talked about in the past doing some kind of virtual element to it, because we'd done that with some of the workshops that we had done. We had done live, but we had simulcast out to various different markets. So we had done it successfully, but we'd never done it with the conference. And it was something that we knew that we wanted to add on so that we could scale it outside of the market. We'd looked into it, but we hadn't accomplished it. So as we started to think about how we were going to do Entrecon this year, we were always thinking about that. How can we do a simulcast, a live stream? And then as time went on with the pandemic, and us thinking, well, gosh, actually, we might have to do even more of a hybrid type event with some people live and a lot more people watching virtually, we started looking into that. But a conference is a year in a planning, and it takes a whole lot of people to plan logistically a live conference, and then adding on top of that a virtual conference just began to seem overwhelming. And then as we started researching platforms and how to do it and all that kind of thing. But as we got closer, we realized that the sensible thing to do was going to be just to do virtual. So that's when we really got deep into making the decisions about platforms and surveying our attendees. That was huge for us to actually survey the people who were going to be attending.
Yeah, I think that's so smart. Surveys and I'm sure you've gained a ton of insight from doing it. I know that we filled out a couple of ourselves, and I think it's such a smart option to start with, is to really figure out what your audience and your donors and your sponsors want from that event if it's virtual. And, we worked together on the Angel Fund kickoff. We were able to raise $5,000 to $7,000 just in that one event that we worked on with a very short timeline to plan it. And I actually showed the video that we started with whenever we were on earlier, and that one piece of content is really powerful. And I know that was a key factor for that. But what were some other things that you realized during that process that that virtual was going to be good for you guys? What was kind of an enlightening moment during that event?
Yeah. So, like I said, Brie, we surveyed our attendees, and we asked them what was important to them. So that feedback was super important to us as we're planning this process. And we knew what we wanted was two things emerged as being really important, both from that survey process and from the sessions that we'd been doing, the workshops and the webinars that we've been doing over the months since February, March. was that the quality of the content needed to be really key, and also the engagement with attendees and sponsors. So those two things were absolutely vital. We knew that if we were going to do it successfully, we had to focus on that. So content, that's a whole nother story. That's something outside of the platform, but that's something, if you're, whatever your nonprofit is, that you can really do a great job of focusing on that content and delivering what your attendees, the people who are coming to your event, what they need, what will be motivational, what will impact them, what are the stories that you're going to tell. We used video, some of it pre-recorded to do that, telling that story. So that was one piece of it. Then the other piece of it was, well, how do we do this? How do we engage live? How do we have a real conversation that is going to be meaningful to the people who are watching this on the other side of the computer screen? Because we do this, most of us are doing this all day now. If we're in this sort of office work environment and we've moved home, and it can get exhausting, it can get tiring, the fatigue is there with everybody. So we knew we had to overcome that. So having this ability to interact live with our speakers or our panelists, one-on-one, like you and I are doing, in a conversation that's natural but informative and effective, but also with the list of participants and attendees. And it's nice. We were doing with our webinars, we were doing, people were chatting, we had the chat box open, and that's great. We would also do little meetings where people, we'd have 50 people on a screen and 4 screens. So we had 200 people and we could see and chat, but that, that gets difficult to manage, with the unmuting and muting and talking over and all this kind of stuff. So when you showed us Remo, what that meant was that we could control the environment. We could control this when it was one-on-one speaking, but then we could open it up, allow people onto those tables, and they could see who was there. They could make a decision whether they were going to sit at this table or that table and how long they were going to do it for. But then when that networking time was over, we could bring them back into the program. Now, you and I have been to many, many, many fundraising events and conferences over the years. And as much as you have the people on the stage at the front with the microphone and they're talking about the program, and sometimes, showing really moving videos or telling stories or having kids at there's still those groups of people around the room who are in their conversation and they're talking. You're like, come on, watch. We've got a program, it's taken hours putting it together for you. And, you just ignore them and you get on with it, and you do the program for the people who are watching. But with this, it's almost better because we're
undivided attention
back into the environment, out of the networking thing, and forcing them to watch the program, which is nice. So some key things: going backwards and forwards, keeping the program short, a story and a point. Okay, make the story, tell the point, make the ask. Go back into the networking, come back, tell more of a story, make a point, make an ask. And then keep updating that live thing. When we were doing the angel fundraiser, what we were able to do, I had my team showing, we did text to donate, and we also did them to be able to, we were sharing the web link to be able to donate. So we could see that coming in on our system. And my team was sending me emails with lists of who was donating. And as we came back on, I'd be like, oh my gosh, we've got Carrie Smader. She's donated. Thank you so much. Lauren Blair, thanks for your donation too. Rose, oh my goodness, we appreciate your donation. Thank you so much. And so those are some of the people who I can see are in this participant list watching. And, and so you thank them. So maybe it's a little bit more like that sort of paddle raise situation where you're in a fundraiser and you can see who's raising the paddles, and it kind of gets that motivation going, right? So that people are doing it. So we did that throughout the evening. And what happened was when we look back, I think we had 100% of the people who attended on the Remo platform doing that event with us gave us some kind of a donation. You know, it may have been $5, it may have been 500, it may have been 1,000, but everybody donated. So for us, it was a huge success.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the key factors that I remember vividly is that the type of text to donate. So I know that there was a couple different options, and we went with Give Lively because it has the Apple Pay option, and people were able to donate immediately without having to fill in more information, and that helped with the time gap, and that made a huge difference too. So my last question, I want to ask you, as a nonprofit leader in the space and in Pensacola, what would you say to nonprofit leaders that are kind of on the fence about planning their event virtually and that are kind of hesitant to do that?
I get it. Number one, I get it. It's daunting. It's overwhelming. It's hard enough for us, right? You know, we put on these events, and planning often, you know, it's a year in advance, like I said, to plan a live event. And that's what we've been doing probably since last year, since we did our previous fundraiser, whatever it is. We started soliciting the sponsors, re-signing them, rebooking the event space, all those kinds of things. And now we're thinking, gosh, well, that was a waste. We're going to have to start all over. So it's daunting, number one. You have to take a deep breath and say, yes, it is. But why was I doing the fundraiser in the first place? Go back to the why. Yeah. Well, I'm doing it because it's so important to the mission of the organization and what we're trying to achieve, whether it's trying to improve the quality of life of people, whether it's trying to create great places to work, whether it's trying to help children who've been physically or sexually abused, or mothers or caregivers who are in need of support and shelter because they've been abused, whether it's helping animals or you know, whatever it is. All of the people who I think are on this call have a strong and powerful mission, and that's why we're doing it. People want to give to that mission. They want to give to that cause and give to that programs. We just have to find a way to do it. And we can't do it the normal way. So what can we do it? It may not be perfect. It may not be as good as being in person, but it's something. And if you can find the way where you can speak to the cause, speak to the why, and also be interactive and kind of create some kind of an experience, have some fun. You know, right. These things, everybody loves the event. I mean, gosh, I'm thinking about all the events, you know, the Gulf Coast Kids House Chocolate Fest and the Dragon Boat Festival, or, you know, the galas or whatever it is. They're about having fun too. We're supporting a great cause, but we're having fun too, and connecting. And I think in this time, this world that we're in, that human connection is so important. And even if we're doing it like this, still we're connecting, and we're connecting in a way that's meaningful behind a cause that matters. So, you know, take a deep breath, regroup, look at the options. We came up with a list just in terms of the logistical stuff of what were the must-haves that we needed, and what were the like-to-haves, and what were the things that we could live without. And that then guided us as we were making our decisions behind what platform did we need, what technology did we need, what support did we need to accomplish that. Say you eat the elephant one bite at a time. You just got to take that first bite, even though you don't know what it's going to taste like.
That's right. Well, Rachael, I'm just so grateful for you, and I'm glad that you're able to hop on here last minute. And I know it's almost like you read the beginning of our presentation word for word, and you know there's a lot to developing that story and the true ones, right? And we're all just trying to survive and make it out here. And I appreciate your insight and your time. And thank you so much for coming and hopping on. And we'll be talking really soon.
Yeah. And I encourage everybody and thank them for all the work that they're doing. It's really important work. Keep at it, stick at it, you know, go back to those sponsors. You know, even if you said you've cancelled your event, say, okay, well, what we did was we cancelled the live event, but guess what? We're going to bring you something different and something virtual and something fun, and go back to them and make the ask. I've gone to all of our sponsors again, and I've literally asked a second time, and every single one of them so far, God bless them, have said yes. So stick with it, encourage you, and thank you. And all of you, you're difference makers, and don't underestimate the difference that you're making. Thank you. And thank you, Bree, for all that you do too.